What's up, guys, and welcome to my 2025 Winter Split LPL breakdown. Now, this is going to be potentially the craziest split in LPL history, and the reason for this is because we have a new, exciting format, and we have some of the most hype rosters that we've had in the LPL. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through all the changes to LPL, talk to you a little bit about the rosters, and then I'm going to do a tier list at the end, and hopefully you will come join me and watch LPL when it kicks off tomorrow. So LPL, new format. This format is crazy. It is best of 5 only hard fearless, meaning there are no best of 3s, no best of 1s, and you are in hard fearless draft, which is the fearless draft where every champion that is picked in game 1 will not be available in game 2. In game 3, you won't be able to pick any champion that was picked in game 1 and game 2, and you have the 10 bans on top you got to remember, and that will just continue through the entire draft, which means that if you go to game 5, you're not only just going to have the 10 bans that normally happen throughout the game, you're also going to have 40 champions banned. The 40 champions that were picked in the first 4 games will be banned. So this is a completely different format that we've ever had. And the fact that it's only best of 5s means that we are going to see some game 5s with 50 champions banned going in, which I am really, really hyped for. So let's talk about how the split works. There are no longer 17 teams in the LPL. Instead, there are 16 teams. And before we look at the roster, I'm going to show you a little bit about the format. So the way the format works is that all the teams, the 16 teams, are divided into 4 groups. So these are the 4 groups here. Group A has Anyone's Legend, LGD, WE, and Top. Group B has JDG, OMG, Ultra Prime, and Weibo. Group C, BLG, EDG, LNG, and TT Gaming. Group D, FPX, IG, NIP, and RNG. So these are the groups. Now, each one of these groups will be a round robin best of 5, single round robin best of 5. So each team will play every other team in their group in a best of 5. At the end of that, the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed will move on to the playoffs. So you could just play 3 best of 5s and you're out. Now the playoffs are a little bit different, and this is why every game is going to be so important. When you go to the playoffs, the teams that get first seed in their groups will be seeded into round 2, which means that they will get double elimination. The teams that get second in their group will be in this losers bracket, which means that they will have single elimination to start, which is actually, really tough, man. Like, you can get eliminated super quick in this format. So it is very important that you end up doing well in your group stage. If you have one bad best of 5, you lose a best of 5 that you should win. That's the end of your split. And obviously at the end of finals, the team that wins will go to the First Stand tournament, which is that new international tournament that Riot is doing in March. So this is the format, and it is going to be a hard, fearless draft like we discussed. When it comes to the teams, we have some of the most hype rosters that we've ever had, and I'm going to start with the one that I'm going to be fanboying the entire time, which is the Ninjas in Pajamas. I'm actually so hyped for this lineup because for me, for people that have been here for a while, they remember how much I loved OMG. I haven't loved the team like I loved OMG ever in League of Legends. And this new team is the closest thing that you can possibly imagine to it, because not only do you have 3 of the original OMG members, I guess not technically original because Shaji joined in the second split, I watched them, and PBGod joined later on. But in terms of the team that I really love, that 2023 OMG, you have Shanji, Aki, and PBGod. You have the Psychopath AD, which used to be Abel, now it's Leave. And Duanbi is one of my favorite players of all time. Absolutely love watching this guy play. He had one of the best splits, I think, ever in domestic LPL history, which was 2021 summer. So I am so hyped for this roster. I think this roster is going to be insane to watch. Now, if we go through some of the other teams, you can't forget about BLG, obviously. They're running back the same roster that went far in Worlds. The only difference is they have Wei playing, who ended up being the sub. He's going to be the starter for the entire year, and Shun is now not on the roster anymore. He went to JDG. So BLG is going to have Wei, who they played with through all of summer, and they obviously dominated, won finals 3-0. And became the first seed from LPL going into Worlds. So BLG still going to be completely insane, pretty much getting the same roster. You're getting the exact same roster that you had in summer, and they should be considered the team to be reckoned with in the LPL. Top Esports made some changes. They now have Crisp on their team instead of Mako, and they have Kanavi in a Top Esports jersey, which is going to be so weird to me. For somebody who's watched LPL for so many years, it's so crazy to think about Kanavi being in a Top Esports jersey, because he was on JDG when JDG and Top Esports were the best 2 teams in the LPL, battling in final after final against each other. And he was somebody who I'd only really seen played for JDG. I mean, he really only did play for JDG. He was a sub for Griffin before he joined JDG. So seeing him in a top esports jersey, I already saw it once during Demacia Cup. It's going to be weird the entire split. When you move to Weibo, they're obviously a really strong team last year. They're maintaining their core of Breathe, Xiaohu, and Light, but they no longer have the same support. They no longer are playing with Crisp. Instead, they're playing with Hong, which to me is a side grade, similar situation there. But instead of playing with Tarzan, this team is going to have Tian. The GOAT Tian is going to be on Weibo. So you already look at the rosters, and the teams in Pool 1 are all teams that look really exciting to watch. Like, I'm excited to watch every single one of these teams play because I think that there's so many different ways that this thing could go. And especially when you consider that it's best of 5 fearless, you never know how it's going to go. If one of these teams drops one series that they shouldn't drop in their groups, they might be in single elimination. We could get some really insane bangers in the single elimination portion of playoffs. Next, we got JDG, which is a super team in the LPL. You have Shun, Scout joining from LNG, Pays, who is joining from Genji, missing, and Ale will be playing. I think Ale is the weakness on this roster, but that is a team that is really impressive on paper. It is just a textbook super team. None of these players have played together before, so we're not really sure how it's going to go, but this is a textbook super team. Next, we have LNG. So LNG, I think they got a little bit weaker. Zika Weiwei staying on the roster, but they have Photic and Zhuo coming from NIP, and Hai Chao, who actually had a pretty impressive year with LGD. He's now joining LNG. Got FPX. So FPX, this was the team that was really hype in spring, fell off a bit. Xiaolao, who is taking a break. Sheer is going to be the top laner, formerly JDG. Sheer is going to be the top laner. They have Sorrow and Shadow being the junglers. Sorrow played in Demacia Cup. Shadow was signed later. I've seen that Shadow was the starter on social media, but I'm not sure if that's actually true, if he will actually end up being the starter. But you still have Care. Bat is completely insane. This guy is a mentally ill AD carry, which I love to watch. And Jue is somebody who I consider to be pretty mid. A team that's going to surprise people, though, I think at least, is going to be this Anyone's Legend team. They did win Demacia Cup, but I think that this roster actually has insane potential. Shanks, Hope, and Kale were already really strong, and Tarzan has been one of the best junglers in the LPL for years, so adding him to this roster, I think it gives them that firepower to potentially push them over the edge. Kraka was essentially a poor man's Tarzan in my mind last year, so I think this is an upgrade. And Flandre will be joining AL. Now, Flandre is generally hated by Western LPL watchers. He had some pretty int games. He had a pretty mediocre year, I would say, last year, but when he's on, he's on, and he is a pretty flexible player. So we'll see how well he performs this split. I'm generally a little bit higher on Flandre than the average person, but I definitely see his flaws. He has issues with dying too much. Sometimes he's really off sync with the rest of his team, and it really sticks out when that's the case. OMG. So OMG's roster is Harry, Hang, Linfeng, Starry, and Moham. All I gotta say is I don't know how Moham found an import slot, but I guess on a bottom team like OMG, it makes sense. LGD, another bottom team in my mind. Saucy, Climber, I think is going to actually be the starter. XQW, Xiaoye, who played last year, and YCX. Saw this team play in Demacia Cup, wasn't impressed at all. We'll see how they do in the regular season. TT might have some potential. You have Hoya, Beichuan, 1XN, and Feather. Setab is joining from the LCK. He's okay. Potential side grade to UCal, maybe slight upgrade in certain metas. We'll have to see how he ends up performing. IG. This is a team that most people are going to be really hyped on. Now, I am going to be lower on this team than most people. I don't think this team will actually be good, but I think this team will be really, really, really fucking hype. Rookie in the Shy back in IG jerseys. Super hype. JJ Mako, world champion support and jungle pairing from that EDG team, now playing on IG with Gala, who has been one of the most hyped AD carries in the modern age of LPL. This is a team with 4 world champs. We'll have to see how they end up doing. You know, this is a team that I think is going to be really bloody. They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to have some really high kill games. But we'll have to see how they end up performing when they play against top teams in close series. In WE, you have Cube. Beluga was the guy that actually played during the Demacia Cup, but I think Cube is going to be the starter for WE. Tianjin, Karis and Taeyun, and Vampire. It's a Vampire team. I don't know. He keeps on getting jobs. It is what it is. Edward Gaming. Now, I saw some LPL watchers have actually rated this team pretty high. I've seen people say that this team is going to be top 6. I personally don't see it, but I can see the vision. ZDZ and Xiaohao, they were playing last year on Weibo together. They're decent. I wouldn't say that they're bad. They have potential to do well, but we'll have to see. I don't know if that'll be enough to carry this team. You have Asim and Wink. Asim was underrated. He had a low-key good year last year. We'll have to see if he can do anything. And Angel has been hit or miss. He had a good spring, bad summer. RNG and Ultra Prime. I don't even want to say the names on these rosters, but I think that these teams are going to be absolute bottom of the barrel. I think we are about to see Milky Way in the most ELO hell of ELO hells this next year on RNG. An Ultra Prime, perennial bottom feeder. They have Waco, who you guys might remember from some of the worlds. He played, I believe, on Beyond Gaming, maybe PSG. He played on one of those PCS teams. He's from Taiwan, so we'll see how he ends up doing in LPL. I think this team is going to be complete bottom feeder. So let's get into the tier list. There is nothing that could make me not believe that this BLG team, which was one game away from winning Worlds, will not still be the best team in the LPL. I think they're way too solid. Knight Bin pairing is crazy. I mean, on Elk, they're insane. We saw Wei play with this team, win a split, completely run games in LPL. I think domestically, this team is going to be insane. I think they are the clear front runner. Second place, and we're going to do this how we always do, which is, each placing left to right matters in every single tier. It's essentially just a 1 through 16 tier list. I'm going to put AL. Maybe it's just hype from winning Demacia Cup, but Tarzan is normally so good within the LPL. I really think that their mid bot lane played extremely well last year, and I just think that this team is going to really benefit from Tarzan's consistency and the extra firepower that Tarzan brings. So I'm really hype on AL. Next up, third place, I have Top Esports. They're really good last year, throughout most of the year domestically. Pretty much the second best team in LPL throughout. I think they'll still be fine. They probably won't have the same level of discipline that they had with Mako, but I think Kanavi brings that firepower that they were kind of missing in the jungle, and I don't think that they'll collapse as hard as they collapsed last year. Let's go to the number 4 team, which I think should be Weibo. I do think Weibo is weaker. I mean, I'm putting them 4th instead of the 2nd that they got last year, but I don't think they'll be that much weaker. They still have really solid players everywhere. Like I said before, I think changing from Crisp to Hang, I think that's a side grade. I don't really think that makes the team worse. Might even be a slight upgrade. If anything, Tarzan to Tien is a bit of a downgrade, but at the same time, I don't think it's a huge one. I think that they'll still be solid in every position. A bunch of these players know how to play the game. Got a world champion jungler. I think that the team will probably be fine. I just don't think that they'll be as good as BLG, AL, and Top Esports, but they're in the same tier, so I think they're really close to these two at least. I think I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to put JDG 5th. The team looked rough in Demacia Cup. It has that failing super team written all over it, where it's just a bunch of different playstyles put together, pulling in a bunch of different directions. The team has no idea how they want to play the game. It takes them forever to lock in, and they end up having a really rough winter. I'm very aware that could happen again, just like it did in Demacia Cup, but I do think they have such a high average level of player that even if they play bad, they still might end up getting a 5th place, because I think the other teams are in the middle of the pack are not super good. Next up, I'm going to put IG 6th. This might be coped by me. I could see this not going that well for IG. They're going to be a really flippy team. When you have the Shy on the team, your team is either insane or you're just getting inted by the Shy. He runs it down hard. He still has that int in him. We saw it in Demacia Cup, and we're going to see it this year. I'm completely convinced. I've watched him in LPL for years, right? I'm completely convinced that he's going to run it down again in 2025, but he will have some random good games. And the way the Shy ints is not like he just gets solo killed a bunch all the time. He's normally pressuring and he's strong, and then he gets solo killed for no reason. So even when he ints, I don't think the team is going to suffer that much because of him. They'll still probably be pretty decent, and I don't think we have that strong of a middle of the pack this year in the LPL. So maybe they go as low as 8th, but I think 6th to 8th makes sense. I do think they'll make it out of the group stage in the LPL. Next up, I'm going to put my boys. I'm going to put the ninjas in pajamas. Let's go. Yeah, I think old OMG's got it, bro. I think that they'll be a team that probably gets out 2nd in their group and then loses maybe 1st round, maybe 2nd round of playoffs, but I think they're going to be all right. I think they're going to, benefit from a lot of the things that will be happening. For example, Fearless Draft. Shanji was somebody who loved playing weird stuff. Aki is somebody who plays a lot of different things. Even though he has some really AFK games, he does play a lot of different things. I think that'll be pretty interesting for them. I think Duanbi is somebody who benefits a lot from Fearless Draft because this guy was known for playing so much weird shit. When you think about his last splits, I mean, he was the Kled mid guy. He was the guy that played Nautilus mid. He could play Assassins. He can play Rise. He has all these picks at his disposal. So I believe that they're going to benefit from Fearless Draft, and they'll end up being in that 5th through 8th range. Next up, I am putting LNG. I think they're weaker for sure, but they're still not that much weaker. Zika has been really good in the LPL. Haichao has had a really good year. I think that he's a pretty solid mid laner. I just don't see them being able to beat the teams above them. So I would put them more close to the the 8th through 10th than like potentially getting 5th. I think that this is probably 5 through 7 here, but they do have a still solid roster. They should be okay. I mean, NIP with Fodak and Joe was able to make, top 4 in a split. I think this LNG team could probably make top 8. Now we go into the next tier of teams, which are like mediocre teams. These are all teams that I think probably will get eliminated in group stage, but they'll probably be better than the absolute dogshit team. So let's move TT here. Solid team, definitely are going to be flawed, definitely lack firepower. 1xN is a beast, could carry some games. Don't think they're going to win too many best of 5s against the better teams, but I think that they're not going to be terrible. I expect them to beat the worst team in their group, and that's about it. Next up, I'm going to put EDG. Like I said before, people will rate Xiao Hao really highly in the LPL. Xiao Hao, ZDZ, these are players that are solid. They're going to have a decent top side. I think that Angel's performance is very hard to judge what Angel you're going to get. If he plays well, maybe this team could potentially go top 8. If he doesn't play well, it's just going to be as sad as it was last split on OMG. All right, next up, I have this WE team. WE is not going to be good, right? But I think they'll be better than the worst teams. And I think at this point, we should actually just start going in reverse order. I'll put one more and then we'll go in reverse order. That team I'm going to put is this OMG lineup. The OMG lineup, look, Moham was bad for being on a top tier LCK team. I don't think he's so bad that he is going to be worse than, for example, Vampire. Like, I don't believe that he is actually going to be worse than Vampire. I do think some of the other WE players will be better, but I think that he can definitely outperform the bottom tier LPL supports. He has some good qualities to his game, and Starry actually was a little bit of a talent last year, so we'll see from there. RNG, I'm keeping them in F, and they're going to stay there because I think this team is going to be terrible, bro. If you watch them in Demacia Cup, they have almost nothing redeemable about their gameplay. I mean, they lost in like 16 minutes. You look at the lineup, Milky Way has nothing to work with. I think Tanyuan is one of the worst players in the LPL. I don't know how this guy has been in the LPL for now. Is going to be going on his 3rd year. Just doesn't make sense. Don't really respect him as a player. He has so many flaws. Every now and then, like 1 in every 5 games, he'll play well, but I just don't trust him to be able to do anything. Zhaozhu, pretty good at Cassante, mediocre at everything else. Don't know much about Zhaoqi and Lele. Well, I know a little bit about Lele. I don't think Lele is very good. I just think that this team is as mediocre as it comes, as bad as it comes pretty much in the LPL. Right above them, I am going to move Ultra Prime. Ultra Prime is just always bad, bro. They're always bad. You look at the roster, looks budget, doesn't look exciting at all. Watch them play, wasn't inspired at all. The macro is not there. The mechanics didn't really show up. People think this One Jiang guy is a prodigy. He might end up being good individually, but it won't be enough to carry this team. I think they're absolutely going to get eliminated in the early stage, the first round of the split. Next, we have D tier. So for D tier, I am going to move FPX and LGD. I think these could go in any order, to be honest. The FPX roster, we talked about it before. I like Sheer. Shadow maybe could do something. Bat, he's kind of mental. He has some ability to carry fights. I saw some mechanics out of him. Could be decent. This team is going to struggle macro-wise. I think it's going to be a tough run as well. And then LGD is another team that it's just pretty uninspiring. You look at the roster, there's no one on it that you think is good. And when you look at the teams that are in the top 8, I just can't see any of these bottom 4 teams beating any of them in a best of 5, even on their best day, even on these bottom teams' best day. So that is what I have for my tier list. I have BLG 1, AL 2, Top Esports 3, Weibo 4, JDG 5, IG 6, NIP 7, LNG 8, 9 goes to TT, 10 EDG, 11 WE, 12 OMG, 13 FPX, 14 LGD, Ultra Prime at 15, and RNG as the worst team in the LPL this split. But regardless, I think that it's going to be a really fun split to watch. Once again, the schedule is best of 5s only. So if you look at every single day on the schedule, this is obviously just for the first stage. You are going to have 3 a.m. starts for me, which is 10 a.m. Central European time. Best of 5s throughout the entire schedule. And then there is a 2-week break for Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. They do it every single year in the LPL. So we're going to get about 2 weeks of games. Then there's going to be a 2-week break. Then we get a few games to finish off the first part of the format. And then we will be in the LPL playoffs, which are going to end sometime in March, which will incorporate 10 best of 5. So that's going to be the format. So hopefully you guys check out LPL if you haven't already. If you are an LPL fan, I feel like this is the time to get into it. The rosters look stacked. Games look really fun. The format looks cool. And I think that the way that the split is formatted, with there only being one best of 5 a day, I think it's going to be very easy to consume. Whereas before, you had those days where it was 3 best of 3s in a day. It was very hard to get through the entire day. You had to watch LPL for 9-10 hours in order to consume all the content. I don't think we're going to have to do that this year with I know we're not going to have to do that with the new format. I think it's going to be way more palatable to the average fan, a lot easier to follow, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you on the 12th for LPL.